Only 4 words. That was all it took to rock the basketball world and make millions of fans reevaluate everything they believed to be true about Caitlin Clark's future. I will always love you. On the surface, the message seems benign, but it has now become the most scrutinized statement in WNBA history. Because what came next? Total quiet. The lady who changed women's basketball on her own gave no explanation, no follow-up, and just radio silence. Insiders are already speculating that those 4 words weren't merely a farewell to a comrade. They may have served as Caitlin's farewell to the league as a whole. This story is much larger than anyone could have thought, so let's go back to the beginning. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a rookie looking for her spot when she first set foot on a WNBA court. Her arrival was like an earthquake, upending the league's preconceived notions about star power. This wasn't a slow ascent to fame. Veteran players, coaches, and even league executives were left perplexed by this sudden dominance. Clark started making three-pointers from range that were almost insulting to the game itself in her very first game. However, everyone's attention was drawn to more than simply the range. It was her self-assurance, her swagger, and her ability to conjure magic out of thin air and thread passes through seemingly insurmountable windows. After years of wallowing in mediocrity, the Indiana Fever were abruptly catapulted into the most prominent position in women's basketball history. Their games went from being poorly attended afterthoughts to sold-out events with people lining up to purchase tickets. The data reveal an amazing tale. Products were taken off the shelves more quickly.
McBride hit Lexi Hull with an elbow. Foul on Lexi Hull. Hits Lexi Hull with an elbow. Foul.
Anyone could then replenish them. TV viewership skyrocketed to levels not seen by the WNBA in decades. All of a sudden, even casual sports fans who were unable to name 3 WNBA players were aware of Caitlin Clark's identity and next game. She was more than just the Rookie of the Year. Even before her first season ended, she was being referred to as the Rookie of the Decade. Clark wasn't only the solution for a league that had been frantically looking for its next big star. She fulfilled all of their dreams and more. This is when the fairy tale starts to fall apart, though. Because enormous power comes with terrible pressure, and a 22-year-old shouldn't ever have to carry the weight of a whole league on their shoulders. Every flashlight created a shadow. Every fan who applauded her was accompanied by a critic who was ready to discredit her. It wasn't only expected that she would perform well. It was that she would always be flawless in any circumstance. Clark was aware of the impending event. She transformed herself into something the WNBA had never seen before during the offseason. The college athlete who was mostly dependent on her extraordinary shooting skills was no longer there. A full basketball machine with wider shoulders, a frame designed to absorb contact, and an attitude centered on total dominance replaced her. Coworkers gossiped about training sessions that verged on obsession. Videos showing Clark working out in the gym, pushing weights that looked unattainable for someone her small, and honing a skill set that extended well beyond the three-point line that made her famous, went viral on social media. The precision of the technical advancements was surgical. Her ability to read defenses got sharper than a surgeon's knife, her footwork improved, and her release speed increased. This was more than just a player improving. This represented a full development.
On Indiana, on hold there, but then that is a technical.
That is a technical. Dead ball, contact technical.
It's a little surprising to see so many of these happen in one game because...
A warning to the other teams in the league that the Caitlin Clark they encountered in the first season was only a sneak peek at what was to come. However, Clark would soon discover that the WNBA has a terrible way of dehumanizing even its greatest players. The universe began creating roadblocks that no amount of preparation could get over, just as it appeared that year 2 would be her total takeover of the league. Strange coaching choices were the first warning sign. While spectators at home and in the arena screamed in confusion at their televisions, Clark sat on the bench during pivotal times. This was the league's most marketable player. The woman is solely responsible for increasing television ratings and ticket sales. Additionally, she was observing the most significant assets from the sidelines. The injuries followed. A persistent groin issue that prevented her from participating in important games. She winced on the hardwood as the officials seemed to swallow their whistles due to the vicious fouls. At first, the rumors were quiet. Were officials who ought to have been watching after the league's most precious asset failing to protect Caitlin Clark? These murmurs quickly turned into roars as video after video went viral, showing Clark receiving punishment that would have resulted in instant technical fouls if it had been directed at seasoned players. Her failure to attend the All-Star Showcase, which the league had intended to utilize as a coronation ceremony for their new queen, was the tipping point. Clark sat in the background, tending to injuries that many thought could have been avoided with competent officiating, while rivals enjoyed the attention she had garnered. Fans from all over the world felt as though they were witnessing the sport's golden child being deprived of her chance to shine on the grandest stage. However, Clark's nightmare didn't end with a physical punishment. A separate conflict was raging behind closed doors, one that went deeper than any harsh foul could. There were rumors circulating about escalating hostilities in the Fever locker room. Every camera, interview, and headline focused solely on the rookie who had been in the league for less than a year, while veteran players who had spent years working in relative obscurity watched.
Darn near the whole game, just with the injury situation and the personnel available.
Damn, you played 37 minutes.
I mean, you played a lot too, Kels. What did you play? 35. I mean, yeah, we're down people, so gotta suck it up, play a little tired a few minutes, and take in those timeouts as best we can. But
Clark's quick ascent wasn't motivating for colleagues. It was oppressive. After years of hard work, they had earned their stripes. But when Caitlin Clark walked through the door, the basketball world pretended that the WNBA had just been founded. The team cohesiveness was being undermined from the inside out by the obvious jealousy. Then there was the Angel dilemma, a rivalry that had captivated fans' attention but was fostering a poisonous environment that went well beyond constructive rivalry. Every exchange was examined. Each stare-down was examined. Every collision was made into a news story. Drama sells, so the media adored it. However, behind the scenes, it was portraying Clark as an outsider battling not only rivals but the league's culture as a whole. Other players started to pay attention. Trash comments that crossed boundaries, elbows to the ribs that seemed premeditated, and hard screens that felt personal. Technically, that was all acceptable and part of the game. However, the message was unambiguous. Every player was going to see how much punishment Caitlin Clark could take before breaking if the league wasn't going to defend her. Nobody wanted to talk about the officiating because it was the elephant in the room. As they watched their celebrity be beaten night after night with no repercussions for the offenders, fans reacted on social media, forming hashtags and threatening boycotts. It felt like betrayal every time a call was missed. Another indication that the league was more concerned with keeping the status quo and appeasing seasoned players than it was with safeguarding the individual they were utilizing to increase ticket sales and ratings. Clark remained composed in public, grinning throughout press appearances and providing accurate responses. Insiders, however, presented a different picture of a young woman being devoured piece by piece and questioned whether the ideal she had spent her entire life pursuing was becoming a nightmare from which she was unable to awaken. The moment that altered everything then arrived. Following Sophie Cunningham's horrific injury that ended her season, Clark wrote what seemed to be a straightforward message of support. "I will always love you," for words that, in a typical context, would hardly qualify as newsworthy. But these weren't typical circumstances, and nothing about Caitlin Clark's circumstances had been typical for months. Fans, right away.
At shoot-around, you can see Caitlin doing some work right there, just, warm-up work, back and forth on the court, but nonetheless on a basketball court. It's been a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark on a basketball court, certainly a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark play basketball. Then there was a little bit more footage here, and you see Caitlin involved on the floor yet again, even handling the ball, working with her teammates. I mean, that's an important sign there.
Feel something more profound. The moment was just right. The wording is too definitive. The ensuing hush was overwhelming. Theories and conjecture proliferated on social media. Was this only sympathy for a player who was hurt? Or was Clark using Cunningham's predicament as a pretext to make a more general statement about her own prospects? Every word was scrutinized like ancient scripture during the days-long debate. Clark's total silence afterward was even more unsettling. No interviews to defuse the escalating uproar, no clarification, and no follow-up posts. Simply a calculated silence that was louder than any words could possibly be. For anyone who cared about the WNBA's future, Clark's radio silence seemed like a calculated decision, and a terrifying one because the reality that no one wanted to acknowledge was getting harder to deny in a world where athletes are expected to engage with their fans all the time. The WNBA was no longer necessary for Caitlin Clark. Her reputation has grown beyond the league that made her well known. For months, she had been hinting at more ambitious goals, discussing possible career paths with media titans like David Letterman, half-joking about becoming a general manager someday, and giving her all to foundation work that was already transforming lives well beyond any basketball floor. International teams had been circling like sharks, offering contracts that were far larger than anything the WNBA could offer, as well as the protection and respect that her native league didn't seem to deliver. According to reports, media organizations were contacting her about long-term agreements, studio shows, and analyst roles that would make her the face of sports broadcasting without ever having to take another hard hit. In the meantime, the league, which had centered its whole marketing strategy around her appearance, was confronted with the unimaginable prospect that their golden goose would soon fly away. Her name had caused ticket sales to soar, but now they appeared questionable. Merchandise stalls that had survived on her jersey were getting ready for a future in which their biggest attraction would be unavailable. Executives in the television industry were discreetly worried about